Hey everyone, today we're going to be diving into the world of used racing wheel solutions for the PC gaming. Are there any hidden gems, or is it just going to be a very risky purchase? So let's find out today. And we're going to be discussing all kinds of different models. I've been reviewing and testing all kinds of really cheap models, very old models, but also when it comes to very deluxe models like the Logitech G25 and the G27. There are a couple of things that you need to take consideration when you're going to be deep diving into the PC, wheels and used market, because we do have driver compatibility and other problems that I've noticed. I mean, if you're getting an old PlayStation 3 racing wheel that was actually compatible with PlayStation 3 and PC, yet then we're having sometimes still some problems when you're getting into newer Windows 11 versions. Another thing I also noticed is that when it comes to compatibility, I mean, what kind of games are you going to be playing with this racing wheel? Testing different old wheels throughout different games, you do have different results. Meaning, if you're having a track simulator and it is highly possible it doesn't support a certain kind of old racing wheel. I mean, like a Logitech racing wheel that's like 50 or maybe 20 years old. It's possible that it does connect, but the compatibility with the simulation, it's not going to be 100% accurate, resulting in a very overall poor racing simulation experience. So this particular Wingman racing wheel from Logitech is a great example to start with. So first of all, let's talk about physical conditions. So you always need to look for cracks, wear on the, let's say, the grips or the racing wheel, and of course loose buttons. And yeah, where this racing wheel doesn't have a lot of buttons, some of them, like the later models, do have this. So when it comes to, let's say, the force feedback, make sure the motor still is working properly. And if you're going to be looking into used wheels, it's going to be quite difficult to check out because the force feedback is most of the time only, let's say, working when you're going to be having the compatible, let's say, game itself. And the Wingman, I must say that this is going back all the way to the beginning, and you can just really notice that when you're going to be playing with this. I mean, the force feedback, the build quality, everything is cheap to the cheap. I mean, the rubbery, let's say, the plastic, everything, yeah, this is not like, say, the most deluxe wheel for back in the day and to play now. And is this going to be a fun thing to do, a fun way to play? Yeah, it can be, but compatibility also here, I've noticed a lot of games don't really support this racing wheels, and not even to start about, let's say, the overall drivers. Connecting this, it's kind of funny, like a Logitech has this. I think this is a very unique, let's say, way to connect your racing wheel to your desk, and it works very well. But take note that you need to be careful with these really old wheels that you're getting one with a USB connection, because a lot of them have those old school serial port connections, and of course that it comes with the original Logitech racing adapter, 24 volts. So this is a completely different voltage than your regular like 6 or 12 volt, let's say, product. So you need to get yourself, like, say, a decent power supply, and of course the pedals need to be with the wheel. But the pedals, yeah, this is also a different experience where the springs underneath are not really special when it comes to that. Okay, so the first thing that I'm noticing with playing on a cheaper racing wheel, still the force feedback is noticeable, especially when you're using a game like Project Cars. But the only downside I find, like, it doesn't have the perfect force feedback that we have tried and had with different models. So for example, when you're bumping something, you don't feel it, and like you're having a very, let's say, not a great experience when it comes to the force feedback on higher speeds. So you can feel with the cheaper models, there is force feedback, but it doesn't have the perfect, like, the force feedback what you're having with different models that I have played with in the past. You also have like a little bit more deluxe old version of a racing wheel called the Logitech Driving Force Pro. So this is another racing wheel that has, let's say, more features when it comes to that. So this thing was actually made for the PlayStation, and you can actually use this on the PC with the right drivers, but also particularly the right games if you're going to be having any compatibility. And if you're having the right, let's say, combination, it's going to be way better than the previous, like, say, racing wheel, where the Wingman was feeling really cheap. This thing is more deluxe. It doesn't have like the leather wheel that we have seen with some Logitechs, but hey, it comes with more buttons, and of course it does use, so far I understand, the same kind of 24 volt power supply. So make sure that thing is absolutely included, because I have so many of these freaking racing wheels I pick up. I ask for the racing wheel and the adapter, they say yes, and in the end I'm not getting an adapter. Oh, it's so annoying. However, the racing wheel itself comes with a shifter, and I think that's absolutely absolutely awesome. That this thing comes with some very cool features where you have a different kind of modes where we can put them in. So if you want like 900 degrees, I understand this is even possible, but don't pay me on it, that would be fun for a different video. So another thing, always check for wear and tear, because with these rubberized wheels, yeah, it can be a problem. And overall, let's say the quality itself, and yeah, check out the buttons, everything, and what is going on with this. However, this thing does have a D-pad, so that's convenient if you want to just mess around with the menu, and the overall racing experience with this wheel was absolutely better. The shifter itself is absolutely a very cool thing. I love shifters, and this thing is like very short when it comes to the travel and micro switch. So this thing has like a very nice feel when you're actually going to be playing it. The mounting system is exactly the same like the Wingman, and there's nothing to complain there. Always make sure that these plastic blocks are implemented into the kit because of the thickness of your desk. So also with the pedals, it looks in very nice condition. I did clean it up a little bit, and the pedals, they feel different. Like you can see like the brake have a different spring. So for an old, let's say racing wheel with pedals, it's very professional and I do like it. There is no clutch, but if you don't mind it, it's not a big of a deal. Still have the same connection like the later models. Okay, so at the bottom, what you can see over here, we're going to get all the stuff that we're going to get with the latest G25, G27. And we're going to get the rubber for the grip, but also the grip for when you're having a carpet. So quite interesting for an old racing wheel. Got a lot of great goodies. Okay, so let's plug it in my machine, and you can see like it's doing his test, so he's going to calibrate the wheel. And when I'm booting up the game, both of the LEDs will start turning on. So now you can see like it is turned on, plug it in, but when you're booting up the game, you can hear a click, and after the click, it basically activates with the game itself. And it's ready to go. So take consideration, not all racing wheels in combination with games will have perfect, let's say, compatibility, but with project cars, number one, you see the Logitech Driving Force Pro with separate pedals, it works like a charm, and with this game, it works very well. So let's play some games and let's have some fun. The old school G series, called the G25. The Logitech is absolutely one of my favorite racing wheels. However, yeah, you need to take consideration that this wheel is already old, so compatibility with every single game, it's not going to be there. However, we also have the G27. This was more like a deluxe with a lot of improvements, and both can be found all kinds of, let's say, marketplaces nowadays. Yeah, the dual motor force feedback, you really need to double check always if this is still working, because it's one of the many things that can get broken with these Logitech G25 and G27 racing wheel solutions. I think it's safe to say that the Logitech G25 was the first generation of, let's say, the G series that had like the next generation of racing wheel solutions. I mean, particularly not only the force feedback, but also with everything that came with it. Having a very cool, let's say, shifter and the pedals, what they're still using all the way today, yeah, we can do some really cool things with that. However, it was very limited. I'm always getting this Need for Speed Underground or Fast Furious like vibes with the two buttons for the NOS. Man, I really find that really cool and nostalgia. So I really love the, let's say, the overall quality of this. Like the simplicity, but also the quality with the aluminium, or at least metal. It is aluminium or metal middle part. Logitech logo in the middle, but the way you can just also modify it. That is something we should like discuss more here on the channel, because man, the Logitech and modding community is absolutely nuts. But if you're just going to be leaving as it is, I really love the shape of the wheel, and yeah, the shifters, like behind the wheel is just really amazing, like these very cool metal ones. And where we do have like a little bit of a travel, they are a very nice micro switch, so the convenient and the way if you're going to be playing, this is very nice, and I love it about the G25. So we can play with the shifter, with the with all the kind of the 6 gear. There are all kinds of very cool features. The Logitech wheel I'm having over here has some really nice leather still, and I think that's one of the very cool qualities of the Logitech racing wheel itself. And yeah, the overall quality, that's one thing thing you need to take consideration when you're getting a wheel like this, that everything still looks nice, otherwise you need to do some modification or maybe changing out the wheel itself. The design of the case is something they have been using a very long time. Of course the internal parts have been changed and upgraded, but the way how this thing looks and how you need to assemble this is, particularly the assembly, it's going to be the same kind of system like with the older one that we already discussed. The only difference is that now we can just push in and push out the buttons and slightly different configuration, but the way how this works is just perfect. Everything has been attached. So if you're looking over here, you can see that if you want to attach the shifter to your desktop, it works very well. You have two ways, or better said, two buttons like the steering wheel and the third one. You really need the third one, otherwise it's going to be moving around. Next up, let's take a close look at the shifter itself, because what I think that is something a unique thing that they basically removed from the newer models. As you can see over here, we're having just the option to swap it over. Let's push it in. A little bit tricky. Alright. As you can see, now we're having more the option like shift up, shift down. So we're having more like the 6th gear with reverse, and we're having just a push shifter. I think it's pretty cool. The shifting option, I really like it. It gives a completely new dimension to the racing games, but I really need to get used to it. Simply because sometimes I miss shifting. So I really need to get used to the shift gear. Nevertheless, here we're having the 4 buttons. We can configure in the game, D-pad for navigating, and of course the 4 buttons, what I say, A, B, H, Y. So all the buttons we're going to need. The pedals, let's talk about the pedals, because when you're looking at them, you're looking at the older and newer models, there are not a lot of, let's say, differences. Maybe when you're looking inside there will be some differences, but in overall they're the same. The connector that goes into the steering wheel, the same like the shifter. Alright, so but let's take a close look at it, because first of all, it's just a gigantic beast, and I think what's pretty cool that we're having also a clutch. So if you want to give the simulation and the racing to the next level, the clutch is something you just need to have. And as you can see over here, 4 with RVS, beautiful, different kind of springs in it, give you a completely different racing simulator. I must say, what I do like about this Logitech racing wheel stuff is that we can also having some modification that you can buy online if you're not liking them. Alright, so I needed to dig through my Steam list to check out which game has the best support. There is a wiki page for this, but I did notice there is a big difference between games. So this game is Project Cars, the first one, a game that I really started to like. Don't mind my gameplay, I am not a big racing genius, so I just was messing around with the steering wheel in this game. I'm more familiar to the racing arcade games, but nevertheless this game is, yeah, it's getting to me. I really like it, how it plays and how it reacts to the steering wheel, and even for a G25 that is especially even supported with this game, you can just know that, you can feel that this game is just perfect and it works like a charm. The Logitech G27 was another great old racing wheel, so this was improved, and I think mainly when it comes to, let's say, the parts like the racing wheel, and they did some improvement but also changed it out to the shifter itself. So it's the same quality like the G25, so where the G27 is a little bit younger when it comes to the racing wheel itself, maybe it's possible to find this one in also good condition. So also double check everything if you're going to be finding this secondhand, or ask the seller if it's online how the overall condition is, and even ask for more pictures, and of course the force feedback. Having even an RPM meter, that's kind of cool, but that particular thing, it's going to be more like a software compatibility issue. If some of the games don't support it, you will not see it. So it's a cool gimmick, but something is not always compatible with every single game you're going to be playing. So configuration with the shifters and everything else is the same like the G25, and there's actually nothing to complain there. So one of the cool features I love about this G25 and G27 racing wheels itself. The shifter itself is slightly different if you're looking at the G25. There is an improvement with the gearbox to give more like a realistic feel to it. I must say that I did indeed like it more than the G25, simply because, yeah, it doesn't feel more like this wiggle stick inside a gearbox. Nevertheless, we're having here the 4 buttons and D-pad and 4 red buttons, so we can all reconfigure if you want to do some stuff in the game. So when you're looking at the where you need to assemble it exactly the same thing like the wheel. But the shifter indeed feels way better. I wouldn't say it's more realistic, but it feels way better when you need to shift. And yeah, they removed the knob, so this option is not available anymore with this G27. The mounting system is the same like the steering wheel itself. I like it, but you're also going to need the third one, otherwise it will move around when you're using the shifter. And here we have the cable that goes into the steering wheel. I have played with a lot of, let's say, basic Logitech FX kind of version, they're only having 2 pedals, and the 3 pedal is just really cool if you want to have more like a simulation. With Project Cars you can really use the clutch itself, and it is just a completely new addition, and it gives more like an extra simulation in my opinion. So when you're looking at this, the pedals are exactly the same, or so far I see the same like the G25, and I must say what I do like about it, that we're having 3 different springs over here. And it gives more like a simulation. How does it feel? Take consideration that you can change these out. There are a lot of modifications when it comes to these springs. So I think the community itself and what you can do with these pedals are pretty cool. And here we have the connector that goes into the steering wheel like the shifter, but you can't mess them up. So the racing pedals is just a really cool addition to this G series of racing wheels. And so far I know they are all the same when it comes to every single model. But take consideration when you're buying one used, always ask if the power supply is with the steering wheel. You're going to need it, and it's a special one, a special voltage 24 volt DC. So it's something you need to take consideration when you're getting a wheel, otherwise you need to buy one separately. Compatibility when it comes to PC, I did notice that my favorite game, Forza Horizon, is actually working perfectly with this. And I think that's one of the things you need to take consideration. If you're getting into the G25 and the G27, where these things are like prehistoric racing wheels, the compatibility is so much better. Compared with the Wingman and all the other stuff. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's possible that those also work, but still the overall compatibility and the quality of the G25 and G27 are absolutely superior against the really old racing wheels. And I think they're like a lot of fun if you're going to be hooking this up to the PC. So when it comes to console gaming, that's going to be a completely different story and video. Nevertheless, Forza Horizon is a great game to play if you want to use the shifter or you just want to have the shift pedal. Nevertheless, it's a great game to have more like an arcade racing experience. But if you're having a Logitech G27 and you're going to play Project Cars, one of these many games you can play, this will give you the really exciting simulation. You also can use the third pedal that I'm using in this video, and yeah, it gives you this racing experience to the next level. Project Cars is one of my favorite simulation games at the moment. So use racing wheels, always like check the couple things I've been mentioning in the video. So it's a lot of fun revisiting these old school racing wheels, and they're a lot of fun even nowadays. However, let me know in the comments what kind of racing wheels do you have or did you own. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, give this video a like, and it would be great to see you in the next video.